After months of my wife rejecting intimacy, I finally took matters into my own hands. Standing in that hotel parking lot, watching her laugh with another man, something inside me snapped. She didn't see me in the shadows. She had no idea I was there, no idea what I was capable of. 7 years of marriage, and I never thought I'd become this version of myself. Cold, calculating, ready for war. She thinks she's winning this game? She has no idea who she's really married to. The nice guy she took for granted? He's gone. And what's coming next will change everything. My name is Andrew Miller. I'm 39 years old and the owner of TriTech Solutions, a small but profitable IT security firm in Seattle that I built from scratch. I met Jennifer, Jen to her friends, at a tech conference 7 years ago. She was representing her law firm, all confidence and razor-sharp intelligence, in a blue power suit that matched her eyes. I fell hard and fast, and within a year we were married. The first 5 years were everything I'd hoped for. We bought a house in Magnolia with a view of Puget Sound, took vacations to places we'd dreamed about, and talked about starting a family someday. But someday kept getting pushed back. First, it was because Jen was up for junior partner at her firm. Then it was because I was expanding the business. Always a good reason, always just temporary. Then, about 8 months ago, something changed. Subtle at first. A canceled dinner here. Not tonight. I'm tired there. Our conversation shortened. Her smiles became rarer. When I reached for her in bed, she'd already be asleep or claim an early meeting the next day. I told myself it was just a rough patch. Every marriage has them, right? By month 3 of the cold shoulder, I was checking my breath and doubling up on deodorant, pathetic as that sounds. By month 5, I was practically begging for her attention, trying date nights and surprise gifts like we were back in our courting days. Nothing worked. She was physically present, but emotionally gone, like a ghost haunting our marriage. The breaking point came on our anniversary. I'd made reservations at Canlis, her favorite restaurant, bought a pair of sapphire earrings that matched her eyes, even left work early, something I rarely did, to shower and dress in the suit she always said made me look handsome. At 6:30, my phone buzzed. Her text was brief. Emergency at work. Massive case development. Don't wait up. That was when I knew. Not the details, not yet, but I knew something was fundamentally broken. No law firm emergency happens every Tuesday and Thursday like clockwork. No case development requires a new lingerie set I accidentally glimpsed in her shopping bag, but never saw her wear. I sat at our dining table alone that night, staring at the untouched bottle of champagne, and made a decision. If Jen wasn't going to be honest with me, I'd find the truth myself. I wasn't going to be the oblivious husband anymore, the punchline in someone else's joke. So the next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I waited until she left for work, then went in her home office. It took less than 5 minutes to find what I was looking for, and it turned my world upside down. The evidence was right there on her laptop. Dozens of emails between Jen and Kyle Richards, a senior partner at her firm. Not work emails. Personal ones. The kind no married woman should be exchanging with another man. Dinner plans. Inside jokes. Subtle references to meetings in hotel rooms that were definitely not for client consultations. My hands shook as I scrolled through them, but my mind remained ice cold. 20 years of solving complex security problems had taught me to analyze situations logically, even when my heart was being ripped out of my chest. I didn't confront her immediately. That's not my style. Instead, I devised a plan. The following Thursday, one of her regular late work nights, I tracked her phone's location to the Edgewater Hotel downtown. Expensive place. Romantic. The kind of hotel you don't book for a business meeting. I parked my Tesla across the street and waited, watching the entrance through the rain-streaked windshield. The Seattle drizzle matched my mood perfectly. Cold, gray, relentless. At 9:37 p.m., they walked out together. Kyle had his hand on the small of her back, my wife's back, guiding her toward the valet stand. He was older than I expected, distinguished-looking with salt and pepper hair, and a tailored suit that probably cost more than most of my employees made in a month. They were laughing about something, completely at ease, like they'd done this 100 times before. Maybe they had. I could have caused a scene right there. Could have stormed across the street, thrown a punch, made a fool of myself. But that's not who I am. I built my company by being strategic, by thinking 3 moves ahead. This situation called for the same approach. So I sat there, taking photos with my phone, documenting everything while my marriage disintegrated before my eyes. When they kissed, a deep, lingering kiss that told me everything I needed to know, I took a video. Evidence. Ammunition. Protection. They got into his Porsche and drove away, never noticing my car across the street. I followed at a distance, tracking them to a Trinity bar in Capitol Hill, where they met another couple, double dating with my wife while I was supposedly working late at the office. I'd seen enough. I drove home, packed a small bag of her things, and placed it by the door. Then I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, sat in my home office, and waited. Around midnight, I heard her key in the lock, the familiar sound of her heels on the hardwood, the rustle of her coat being hung up. "Andrew," she called out, probably surprised to see the lights still on. I took a deep breath and stepped into the hallway to face the woman who had betrayed everything we'd built together. When Jen saw me standing there in the hallway, glass in hand, her smile faltered. "You're still up? I thought you had that early meeting with the Silicon Valley clients." "Funny thing about meetings," I said, taking a slow sip of bourbon. "They could be rescheduled, kind of like our anniversary dinner." Her eyes flicked to the small suitcase by the door, then back to me. "What's going on, Andrew?" "I think you know." I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the photos, and held it up. "The Edgewater looks nice this time of year. Expensive, though. I hope Kyle at least sprung for a room with a view." The color drained from her face. For a split second, I saw panic in her eyes, quickly replaced by calculation, the lawyer in her already formulating a defense. "Andrew, I can explain." "Save it." I cut her off. "I've read the emails, Jen. I've seen the texts. I watched you kiss him tonight. There's nothing to explain." She took a step forward, switching tactics. "This doesn't have to be the end. We could try counseling." I laughed, a harsh sound even in my own ears. "Counseling? For what?" "To help me understand why my wife has been sleeping with her boss for God knows how long." "No thanks. It's not like that," she insisted, her voice taking on that persuasive tone she used in court. "Things haven't been right between us for a long time, Andrew. You're always at the office, always on your laptop. When was the last time you really saw me?" I refused to let her flip this around. "Don't you dare make this my fault. If you were unhappy, you could have talked to me instead of sneaking around like a teenager." "I tried talking. You never listened." Her composure cracked slightly. "You were too busy building your precious company to notice our marriage falling apart." "Well, I'm noticing now." I gestured to the suitcase. "I packed some essentials. You can stay with Kyle tonight. Tomorrow, you can come back for the rest while I'm at work. I've transferred half of our joint account to a new account in your name. The rest stays with me." Her eyes widened. "You're kicking me out? Just like that?" "Just like that," I confirmed, surprised by my own steadiness. "The house is in my name. The mortgage payments come from my company account. You have no legal claim to it. You son of a—" She caught herself, lawyer's instincts kicking in. "Never leave threats on record. This isn't over, Andrew." "Actually, it is." I turned and walked back toward my office. "Lock the door on your way out." I didn't look back as I heard her grab the suitcase, her heels clicking angrily across the floor. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Only then did I allow myself to sink into my chair, my hands finally starting to shake. Morning found me at the office by 6 a.m., eyes gritty from lack of sleep, running on coffee and adrenaline. I called my lawyer first thing, a bulldog of a woman named Diana, who'd handled my company's legal issues for years. She was already drafting divorce papers, advising me on protecting my assets. "She'll come after the company," Diana warned. "Her firm specializes in high-net-worth divorces. Good thing you had the foresight to keep the business separate." I was grateful now for the prenup I'd insisted on, not because I'd anticipated Jen cheating, but because my investors had required it. Sometimes paranoia pays off. By noon, I'd restructure my schedule, delegated projects, and brief my executive team that I'd be dealing with personal matters for the next few weeks. None of them asked questions. They just nodded and picked up the slack. I'd always valued loyalty and had built a team that returned it in spades. My phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls from Jen, all of which I ignored. Let her stew. Let her wonder. Let her feel a fraction of the uncertainty I was feeling. Around 3 p.m., a delivery notification pinged my phone. The locksmith had completed his work at the house. New smart locks installed, security system recoded, Garage door opener reprogrammed. Jen's access completely revoked. I got home just after 6, half expecting to find her waiting to ambush me, but the house was empty. She'd been there, though. Her closet was cleared out, along with some artwork and small valuables we'd collected over the years. Fine by me. Objects could be replaced. Trust couldn't. I was in the kitchen fixing a sandwich when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Kyle's Porsche in my driveway and Jen at my door, looking less polished than usual. Good. Let her unravel a bit. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Forgot something. My keys don't work. Her voice was tight with anger. They wouldn't. I changed the locks. Her eyes narrowed. That's illegal, Andrew. This is still my residence. Actually, it's not. I leaned against the doorframe. Check the property records. House is in my name only. Always has been. I'm still your wife. I have rights. For now, I agreed. But considering the circumstances, I think a judge will understand my concerns about property security. She switched tactics, voice softening. Can we just talk? Without the legal posturing? We were together for 7 years, Andrew. And you threw that away for what? Hotel quickies with a partner who's probably done this with every attractive associate who crossed his path. I kept my voice steady. No, we can't just talk. Not anymore. If you need to communicate with me, do it through Diana. I saw Kyle watching from the car, his expression impatient. Your boyfriend's waiting. Hate to keep him idling in this economy. Jen didn't go quietly. The next morning, I woke to find my company's social media accounts flooded with one-star reviews. Anonymous posts claiming we'd mishandled client data, violated privacy agreements, all the worst accusations you could level at a cybersecurity firm. The timing wasn't coincidental. I called an emergency meeting with my PR team and senior staff. We're under attack, I told them bluntly. Not from hackers, but from my soon-to-be ex-wife. Stunned silence filled the conference room. I hadn't shared my personal situation with anyone besides my lawyer, but now they needed to know. I've initiated divorce proceedings against Jennifer due to her infidelity, I said, keeping my voice steady. She's retaliating through her firm's resources. They're trying to damage our reputation, drive away clients, maybe even force us to sell at a discount. My operations director, Rachel, spoke first. What's our counter-move? That's why I value my team. No sympathy, no gossip, just solutions. First, we contact every client personally. Reassure them. Second, we issue cease and desist letters to every account posting false reviews. Third, we accelerate the Richmond acquisition. The last part was key, a defensive move I'd been considering for months. Buying our strongest competitor would double our size overnight, making us harder to take down. I worked 18-hour days that week, fueled by black coffee and cold determination. When I wasn't saving my company, I was meeting with Diana, documenting every asset, every penny that had gone into building our life together, and the life Jen had thrown away. On Friday, I received notice that Jen had hired Stanley Grossman, the city's most aggressive divorce attorney. The same day, I got word that 3 potential clients had backed out of deals, citing concerns about company stability. That night, I sat alone in my home office, staring at our wedding photo, not out of nostalgia, but to remind myself who I was dealing with, a woman who could smile for the camera while plotting her exit strategy. I wouldn't make the mistake of underestimating her again. My phone rang, Kyle's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Andrew Miller. I answered coolly. Andrew. Kyle's voice was surprisingly subdued. We need to talk. We have nothing to discuss. If this is about the divorce, it's about Jen, he interrupted. She's spiraling, making threats. Against you, against the firm, against herself. Not my problem anymore, I replied, though something cold settled in my stomach. Look, I know you hate me. You should. But this isn't about us. I'm worried she'll do something we'll all regret. I closed my eyes, weighing my options. Where is she now? At my place. She took something. I don't know what. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and was out the door before I could think twice. I might be done with Jen as a wife, but I wasn't about to have her self-destruction on my conscience. I found Kyle pacing outside his downtown penthouse, looking nothing like the confident man I'd seen at the hotel. He was disheveled, panic etched across his face. Where is she? I demanded, pushing past him into the apartment. Bathroom. Doors locked. She's not answering. I didn't waste time asking questions. I moved through the sleek, modern space, all chrome and glass and obvious wealth, straight to the bathroom door. "Jen," I called, knocking firmly. "It's Andrew." "Open the door." Silence. "If you don't answer in 5 seconds, I'm breaking it down." I meant it. Despite everything, I wasn't going to let her hurt herself. Kyle hovered anxiously. "Should we call 911? "Not yet." I tried the handle again, then stepped back and drove my shoulder into the door. It took 3 attempts before the lock splintered. Jen was slumped against the bathtub, pill bottle beside her, barely conscious. Her normally perfect appearance was shattered, mascara streaked, hair tangled, wearing what looked like Kyle's dress shirt and nothing else. I knelt beside her, checking her pulse. Fast but strong. "Jen, how many did you take?" I demanded, grabbing the prescription bottle. "Sleeping pills." "Jen, focus. How many?" Her eyes fluttered. "Not enough," she murmured. "Never enough for you." I looked at Kyle. "Call 911. Now." While he fumbled with his phone, I lifted Jen's head, forced her to look at me. "Stay awake. The ambulance is coming." "Why are you here?" she slurred. "You hate me." "I don't hate you," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "I'm angry, I'm hurt, but I don't want you dead, Jen." She tried to focus on my face. "The company." I didn't mean it. "They made me." "Who made you?" "The law firm." She nodded weakly. Stan said, "Leverage. Pressure you to settle." Her eyes drifted shut, then snapped open. "They'll ruin you if you fight." So that's how it was. The firm was using her to get to me, probably promising her a bigger settlement if she played along. Typical lawyer tactics, but I hadn't expected her to go along with it. The paramedics arrived minutes later. As they loaded her onto a stretcher, she grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry, Andrew. For everything." I didn't know if it was the pills talking or genuine remorse. Either way, it didn't change what had happened between us. "I'll meet you at the hospital," I told her, then turned to Kyle, who stood awkwardly in the hallway. We need to talk." He nodded, suddenly looking older, defeated. "She's been unraveling for weeks. The firm's pushing her hard on this divorce." I tried to tell her it wasn't worth it. I studied him carefully. "Are you saying you want out of the whole mess?" "Yes." He ran a hand through his hair. "This isn't what I signed up for." I almost laughed. "What exactly did you sign up for when you started sleeping with a married woman?" The hospital waiting room was a far cry from the upscale settings where Jen and I usually found ourselves. Harsh fluorescent lighting, uncomfortable chairs, the antiseptic smell that never quite masked the underlying scent of sickness. I sat alone, Kyle having slunk away after our conversation. A doctor finally approached around 2 a.m. "Mr. Miller, your wife is stable. We've pumped her stomach and are keeping her for observation." "Ex-wife," I corrected automatically. "Or she will be soon. Can I see her?" He nodded, leading me to a private room where Jen lay pale against white sheets and 4 in her arm. She looked smaller somehow, stripped of her power suits and perfect makeup. Her eyes fluttered open as I entered. "You stayed," she murmured. "I'm not a monster, Jen." I sat in the chair beside her bed, keeping my distance. "The doctor says you'll be okay." She looked away. "Physically, maybe." We sat in silence for a long moment before I spoke again. "Kyle told me about the pressure from the firm, that they're using you to get to my company." Her eyes widened slightly. "He shouldn't have." "I'm glad he did." I leaned forward. "Why didn't you tell me they were forcing you into this?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "Would you have believed me? After everything?" She had a point. "Probably not," I admitted. "Besides," she continued, "it wasn't entirely a lie. Stanley did say we needed leverage, that your company was the prize." She looked down at her hands. "But I went along with it willingly. I wanted to hurt you like you hurt me. Like I hurt you." I couldn't keep the incredulity from my voice. "Jen, you cheated. You lied for months. You checked out of our marriage years ago, Andrew." Her voice was soft but sure. "Your company always came first. I was just the trophy wife who kept your house and showed up at client dinners." I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but there was a kernel of truth in her words that stopped me. Had I really been so blind? "That doesn't justify cheating," I said finally. "No, it doesn't." She met my eyes directly. "I made terrible choices. But this scorched earth divorce isn't the answer. We're destroying each other. And for what?" I stood, needing distance. "What are you suggesting?" "A truce. I'll tell Stanley to back off." No more attacks on your company. I'll accept a reasonable settlement. She took a shaky breath. In return, I want a clean break. No dragging my reputation through the mud. No telling everyone about Kyle. I studied her face, looking for deception, but saw only exhaustion and defeat. Why should I trust you now? Because despite everything, you know me, Andrew. This isn't who we are. I didn't give Jen an answer that night. I needed time to think, to consult with Diana, to consider all angles of the truth she proposed. Part of me wanted to continue the fight, to make her pay for every lie, every betrayal. Another part, a quieter, more rational part, recognized that prolonging this war would only leave us both in ruins. 3 days later, after Jen was released from the hospital, we met at neutral ground, a private room at Diana's law office. Stanley Grossman sat beside Jen, wearing the smug expression of a man who charged $800 an hour. Let's be clear, Diana began all business. My client is open to an expedited, amicable divorce, but we have conditions. Stanley leaned forward. We're listening. First, Mrs. Miller signs a non-disclosure agreement regarding all aspects of Mr. Miller's business. Second, she issues formal retractions for the false reviews and statements made against his company. Third, she publicly announces their separation was mutual and respectful. Stanley snorted. And in return, Mr. Miller offers a one-time settlement of $1.2 million, plus the vacation property in Aspen and her vehicle. No alimony, no further claims against current or future earnings of TriTech Solutions. It was a generous offer, more than fair given the circumstances, but less than Jen might get if she dragged this through court. The question was whether her desire for a clean break outweighed her greed. Jen and Stanley conferred in whispers. I kept my expression neutral, years of business negotiations serving me well. Finally, Stanley cleared his throat. We accept the financial terms, but we have additional requests. First, Mr. Miller also signs an NDA regarding the circumstances of their separation, specifically, any infidelity. Second, he agrees to attend 3 joint public appearances in the next year to maintain the narrative of an amicable split. I looked at Jen, not her lawyer. Why? Why keep up appearances? For the first time, vulnerability showed through a carefully constructed facade. Because my career matters to me, Andrew. Because I don't want to be that woman who slept with her boss and ruined her marriage. Because despite everything, I still care what people think of me. Of us. Diana touched my arm. A silent question. I nodded. We can agree to those terms with one amendment, Diana said. Joint appearances limited to charity events Mr. Miller already supports. No more than 3 hours each. No private interactions required. Stanley looked to Jen, who nodded. Agreed. As the lawyers hammered out details, Jen caught my eye across the table. Thank you, she mouthed silently. I gave a slight nod. This wasn't forgiveness, not even close. But it was a path forward that allowed us both to salvage what mattered most. For her, reputation. For me, the company I'd built and my own peace of mind. Sometimes, winning isn't about destroying your opponent. Sometimes, it's about knowing when to end the fight on your terms. 6 months passed in relative peace. The divorce finalized with minimal drama. The settlement terms held. TriTech flourished under my renewed focus. The Richmond acquisition proving even more valuable than anticipated. Our stock price doubled, and the false reviews faded into internet obscurity. I honored my obligation at the first charity event, a black-tie gala for children's cancer research. Jen and I posed for obligatory photos, exchanged polite small talk, then maintained a careful distance. The gossip columnists seemed disappointed by our civility. Life settled into a new rhythm. I sold our Magnolia house, too many ghosts, and bought a modern penthouse downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. I dated occasionally, nothing serious, more out of social obligation than desire. The wounds were still too fresh for anything meaningful. Then came the email that disrupted my carefully constructed calm, an invitation to speak at the National Cybersecurity Conference in New York. The same conference where I'd met Jen 7 years earlier. The organizer mentioned that Grossman and Partners was also presenting. Jen's firm. Attending meant potentially seeing her in a non-scripted environment for the first time since our divorce. Diana advised against it. Send your CTO. There's no obligation to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. But avoiding the conference meant allowing the ghost of my failed marriage to dictate my professional choices. I refused to give Jen that power. New York in autumn was exactly as I remembered. The conference hotel bustled with tech professionals and security experts. I gave my keynote address on the first morning, a comprehensive breakdown of emerging threats in cloud infrastructure, to enthusiastic applause. I was signing out of the session when I sensed her presence. Jen stood at the back of the room, elegant as ever in a tailored navy suit. Our eyes met briefly before she turned and walked out. Later that evening, I spotted her at the networking reception, deep in conversation with the CIO of a Fortune 500 company. She was in her element, charming, articulate, commanding attention. I observed from a distance, surprised by the absence of pain. There was only a dull recognition. I had loved this woman once. As if sensing my gaze, she looked up. After a moment's hesitation, she excused herself and walked toward me. "Andrew," she said, stopping a professional distance away. "I heard your keynote was impressive." "Thank you. How have you been, Jen?" "Good. Busy. I made full partner last month." "Congratulations. That's quite an achievement." An awkward silence fell between us. 7 years of marriage, and now we had nothing but small talk. "I'm seeing someone," she finally said. "His name is David. He's a surgeon." Her eyes searched mine, perhaps looking for jealousy or anger. "I thought you should hear it from me before the next charity event." I nodded. "I appreciate that." "And you?" she asked. "Are you seeing anyone?" "I've been focused on the company." I answered Jen's question honestly. "There hasn't been time for much else." She nodded, a flicker of something. Regret? Relief? Crossing her face. Always the dedicated Sia. "Some things don't change," I agreed. Then, surprising myself, "Are you happy, Jen?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. She considered it carefully before answering. "I'm getting there. David is a good man. Straightforward. What you see is what you get. Unlike me," went the unspoken comparison. "Unlike us." "I'm glad," I said, and meant it. The anger that had consumed me for months had faded into something quieter. Not forgiveness exactly, but acceptance. We had both made mistakes. Hers were more dramatic, more destructive, but I wasn't blameless in the slow death of our marriage. "And you, Andrew? Are you happy?" It was my turn to consider carefully. "I'm rebuilding. The company's stronger than ever. I've reconnected with old friends, taken up hiking again." I paused. "I'm not where I was, but maybe that's not a bad thing." A waiter approached with champagne. We each took a glass, maintaining our facade of friendly colleagues. "To new beginnings," Jen offered, raising her glass slightly. I touched my glass to hers. New beginnings. As she walked away to rejoin her group, I felt a weight lift, one I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. The last threads of our life together were finally severed, not with the legal documents or divided assets, but with this moment of genuine acknowledgement. Later that night, back in my hotel room, I found myself scrolling through contacts on my phone and pausing at Rachel's name, my operations director who had stepped up magnificently during the worst of the divorce. She'd been dropping hints for months about grabbing dinner outside of work sometime. I'd always deflected, telling myself I wasn't ready. Maybe it was time to find out if that was still true. I sent a simple text, "Back in Seattle Thursday. Dinner Friday." Her response came almost immediately. "About time, Miller. Pick me up at 7. I smiled, my first genuine smile in longer than I could remember. Jen had David. The company was thriving. And perhaps, just perhaps, there was a future waiting that looked nothing like my past. The next morning, I delivered my second presentation with renewed energy. Afterward, several potential clients approached about new security contracts. I found myself fully engaged, strategic, focused on possibilities rather than losses. That evening, as I packed for my flight home, I paused at the window overlooking Manhattan. 7 years ago, I'd stood at a similar window with Jen, planning our future together. Now I stood alone, but not lonely, a distinction that had taken me too long to understand. Sometimes what feels like an ending is merely a course correction. Sometimes what breaks us leads us exactly where we need to go.